minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome into it. Happy Monday. Monday, golly. No, it is not the beginning of the week. It is a Wednesday, middle of the week. We have plenty to get to today for sure. Sorry, I'm overwhelmed with all the news we're going to try and cram into the program today. Steve Bonta will be on the program. He is with the New American. As we talk about tariffs, I know the decision coming out on the global tariffs and what we could expect it moving forward. So we will get to that. We'll also get a war update. And Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, having a hearing today in Congress.
30 seconds till broadcast.
That's kind of fun. So we'll chat on some of that and a heck of a lot more. Make sure to like it out, share it out, leave that comment, break the algorithm. Let's do this thing for the midweek celebration. Hang tight.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Oh, yes, it is. What is up, my friends? Welcome into it. It is your midweek celebration. It is the Voice of Reason. My name's Andy Hooser. Welcome aboard, broadcasting out of the heart of the nation in Wichita, Kansas, on our flagship radio station, KQAM, the Big Talker. But we are all over the country. So many great radio affiliates doing our thing, man, each and every day.
Do it live!
That's what we do here on this show. There is plenty to get to. And again, trying to cram that 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag, trying to rebrand the millennial generation, one radio listener at a time. We have a hearing from Governor Tim Walz. Yeah, you can expect how well that one went for him. We'll cover that in just a little bit. We also have Steve Bonta on the program. He's with the New American. We'll chat with him on the tariffs. If you've not heard, Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, has announced a 15% global tax for the United States, or a global tariff on nations, at least until August, when we can get back on track. They can use the new ways that they want to actually implement the tariffs on different nations, and we're going to get back on track that way. So that's happening in August. Until then, apparently we're going to have a global 15% tariff across the board. The change in the economy, the uncertainty, what does that mean for businesses, for the private sector, and for the economy overall? We'll chat with that with Steve Bonta with the New American at the bottom of the hour. And, by the way, we have election updates from election night last night. That was an interesting night as well. Didn't quite turn out the way I thought it would. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. Not quite sure. We'll cover some of that in just a minute. But there's plenty to get to. And before we do any of that,
what's trending today?
We got to get into the war update of 2026. The Trump administration going on as well with the bombing of Iran, and we're taking out leaders in Iran and what the future of that looks like. And I want to say I'm not concerned yet. However, I am intrigued on how they're phrasing a lot of the action. Now, I understand why they're doing it the way that they're doing it right now, but how long will that continue on? Now, again, we're day number 4. Day number 5, whatever it is now. Apparently day number 4, according to Pete Hegseth. He did a press conference earlier this morning with the Department of War as he gave an update on what was going on in Iran. And he is reminding us, we're only 4 days into this. We're expecting anywhere between 4 to 7 weeks, which for a conflict isn't bad. I really don't want it to go beyond that, even though we can't really put a hard-lined end date on this, or else the enemy will know that and they just ride through until then and be like, we're good. So I get it. I understand it. Some of the phrases that he had mentioned today kind of perked my ears up a little bit for us to be like, we shouldn't be concerned yet, but hopefully it's not the same rhetoric we hear from 5 weeks from now.
I stand before you today with one unmistakable message about Operation Epic Fury. America is winning, decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy. Under the direct command of President Trump, the War Department unleashed this operation early Saturday morning, just 4 days ago, which means we need to remember two things. First, we are only 4 days into this. Metrics are shifting, dust is settling, and more forces are arriving. It's very early, and as President Trump has said, we will take all the time we need to make sure that we succeed. Second, we are only 4 days into this, and the results have been incredible.
All right, so that is very true. That's all very true. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, with his press conference that started off the day today. All of that is very true. Again, we're only 4 days in. The reason that I say we're not worried, but we're not worried yet, is because, as you know, as the MAGA people, as the America First individuals, as the ones that do not want long-term conflict, and the Trump administration knows that. And I will say it again, that if any administration actually says we're not going to have long-term wars, I believe them, even in the Middle East. Pete Hegseth, who was there for all of the conflicts since the Bush administration in the early 2000s, he's been there. Donald Trump, who's been very critical of long-term conflicts in the Middle East, he understands that. He doesn't want that. So when he says that, out of any politician, out of any leader that we've had, I trust him. Because he's been, well, you can see from the past year, he's been very successful in actually doing what he says he's going to do. So he says that they're going to take as much time as they need on this. That's the concerning part to me. But again, with a time frame of an idea between 5 to 7 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks or whatever they have right now, that, you know what, let's hold them to it. And let's hope we can get it done. Be precise, get in there, get out. We don't want boots on the ground. We want to get this done. We want to give the country back to the people of Iran. And I think we're on the road to that. So I'm still optimistic. I'm not being like, wait a second, it's time to put the pause on this and freak out. Because we're, again, only 4 days in, and we've done a lot of work in the last 4 days. And, it's only been 4 days, so we got to be calm, we got to be patient, and it's very difficult for us to trust a politician, right? I get it. But if we're going to trust anybody, it's going to be the Trump administration on when they say they're going to do something. And the leaders that we have, I trust Pete Hegseth. I trust Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I trust Tulsi Gabbard, and many of these who came on board because Donald Trump was not a wartime president, and he was a guy that wanted to end conflict, not get us into long-term conflict. That is the crowd that went with him. So I get it. There's a lot of skepticism. Hang tight. We're 4 days in. It's going to be a brutal 6 to 7 weeks or whatever it is. But by golly, hopefully we can see it done and see an entirely different region in the Middle East after all of that is said and done. All right, that's what I have for my war update. I don't want to get too much more into the details because we could go on forever about it, but there's a lot of other things going on today.
What's trending today?
And I want to bring the home to the domestic front for just a minute. There was a hearing going on today, which if you didn't watch it, highly recommend you watch it. Very entertaining. The governor of Minnesota, Mr. Tim Walz, was in a congressional hearing today and trying to discuss and defend the ongoing, well, he didn't defend it. He just didn't know anything about it. As the governor of the state, he apparently was not aware of all the fraud that was going on, or it's under investigation, which is term for it's a long-term plan. We just want to look the other way, and we're investigating it with a 10-year plan on how to address it. That's the way politicians work. That's the way government agencies work. We see it firsthand, even where I'm here in Kansas. And I think I mentioned this on this program before. In Kansas, our Department of Children and Families that distributes SNAP benefits and food stamps, they have a 12% error rate in our state, which explains why our Democrat governor does not want to give the data over to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, she came to an agreement for that, and she's doing it, but it was very difficult for them to come out to our state legislature and admit, yeah, the accepted rate is between 3 to 5% error. We're at a 12% rate. We really don't want the Federal Department of Agriculture to know about that because that's really, really bad. That's really bad. And by the way, it's been that way since COVID in 2020. And we're starting to put the pieces together. We're starting to realize that most of the fraud took a massive jump since COVID because there was no transparency. There was no way to put guardrails on that money. It was, we're in a pandemic. We're forcing people to stay home. Here's our opportunity. Seize the day. Carpe diem. Never let a crisis go to waste, where we saw a whole lot of fraud start jumping up across the board. And it was pretty evident from not only here in Kansas, where I'm based out of with our flagship, but around the nation. And apparently, according to the hearings that we heard today with Tim Walz, when he became governor, which was 2018, 2019, and when we started seeing massive, and I mean massive, jumps in fraudulent payments going to the state that he claims was for COVID-19. They haven't gone down since then, and he's got the open-ended, we're investigating it for a long-term plan kind of mentality that didn't quite go over well with Congress. Now, there were two sides to this. Good cop, bad cop kind of mentality in Congress today. The good cop was trying to play nice with him and openly make him admit the fact that he's been supporting fraud.
In January of 2019.
In 2019, okay. So using 2018 as a baseline, do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims?
I do not, Congressman.
It's about $671,000. Do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
$342 million. That's about a 500X.
Hold on, wait. Yeah, you heard those numbers. I'm going to replay that for you. Did you hear the jump? Medicaid payout claims from the federal government to the state of Minnesota alone. In 2018, before Tim Walz got into office, $671,000. So under $1 million. $671,000. Did you hear how much in 2024? Again, COVID, right? Open-ended COVID. It was COVID. Got to pay the social programs. Got to help people out. Whatever. Fill in the blank. I don't realize the population grew that much in the state of Minnesota over from 2018 to 2024, which is, what, a 6-year time frame. So I didn't realize population went a 5,000% growth in the individuals that would be qualifying for these programs. But did you hear those numbers?
I do not, Congressman.
It's about $671,000. Do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
$342 million. That's about a 500.
So less than $1 million to $342 million. Can someone please explain to me how that happened? Like, you would think, and we'll get back to the audio in just a minute, you would think that even during COVID, when you're trying to put guardrails on things and you're helping people out during a pandemic and everybody's staying at home and all these issues are happening right now, and there's health crises right now, the virus, whatever, that you would think going from 670,000 to 342 million might raise a flag or two with someone paying this stuff out, being like, well, kind of a jump. Maybe we should look into this stuff.
100x increase over 6 years. Was there 500 times the number of autism patients in that time period?
I couldn't speak specifically to it, but I will say, Congressman, that
doesn't sound reasonable, right? You don't think there was a 500x increase in the number of autism patients in 6 years, right?
Correct, and that's why we ordered on-site visits starting back in 2024.
So we agree that doesn't sound reasonable.
On-site visits. I can't deal with it. That's a good cop. That was a good cop, and he got him to explain. Yeah, you know what? That doesn't sound right. We started doing on-site visits. That was his plan. We're going to investigate on-site visits. Back in 2024, we're 2 years out now, and it's still happening, and nothing's been done. Since the COVID pandemic, we've gone again 670,000 to 342 million. And he's like, we're just going to visit the site. We're just going to check it out. That was good cop. That was the nice time when he was actually being called out. Here's the bad cop approach from Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
I'm the governor of Minnesota, Congressman.
You know what
I'm not here
is.
to be your prop for your obsession.
So
I
if you
taught
can't
middle school
define
your
what
obsession.
a woman is, you certainly can't define what fraud is. If you can't even define what a woman is, you can't define fraud. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2017, Governor?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, Congresswoman.
Did you prepare for this hearing today? Did you
I
do
did.
any preparation
I take
for this
Congress
hearing today?
seriously.
And you've seen the numbers about autism fraud in Minnesota. So we're going to do some Minnesota math with you today, okay? Are you ready? How much money was spent on 2017 for autism in Minnesota? How much?
I don't know. I wasn't the governor.
Okay. Did you not just say that you prepared for this hearing today? $1 million, okay? A quick Google search or using your AI could tell you $1 million was spent. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
Were you governor in 2024?
I was, but I'm not the
Okay,
head
so
of the
your
HHS.
excuse before that you didn't know what 2017 autism numbers were because you were not governor, and today you can't answer the numbers about 2024 as governor, and you still said you prepared for this hearing today. It's unbelievable. $343 million was spent in 2024. What percent increase is that from 1 million to 343 million? What percentage increase is that?
I'm not here to be your prop. Go ahead and tell me.
Are you governor of Minnesota or not?
Yes, I am. I'm
Okay,
not.
well,
I'm
when
not
I'm
a prop
governor of
for a
South
member of
Carolina,
Congress.
you can sure as hell bet that I'm going to know the math. The math is 34,200% increase, an increase of 343 times what it was in this time period.
Talk about bad cop, good cop mentality there. Nancy Mace not having it, and I got to give her a massive round of applause because that was amazing. I really got to admit, I really kind of enjoyed that one. So thank you, Nancy Mace. You can't have a 300 and some odd %,000% increase on a social program and just be like, I don't really know. I'm governor. Don't really know on that one. Yeah. Fraud all around. It's time to get to the bottom of it.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
When America builds, the world follows. Our energy powered the 20th century. We've set the standard for generations, and we never waited for permission. But now, we're being held back. Outdated rules, endless delays. Without permitting reform, Washington's red tape is slowing us down while other nations race ahead. It doesn't have to be this way. We can clear the way for energy that's affordable, reliable, and built right here. Because what's built here is felt here. Lower costs, more jobs, stronger communities. That's what permitting reform makes possible. Energy didn't just shape our country, it powered the American dream. And with our innovation, we can lead the 21st century. Congress has a choice. Build America's energy future or risk falling behind. Tell Congress, pass permitting reform now.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left finds new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back. And that's where we can help. Head to our website at HooserReason.com. There you can find our latest blog discussing topical issues of the day. Let us know your thoughts on current events with different surveys and chat rooms. And keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Plus, when you head to the website, you can always get great deals and different offers from all of our great radio partners. Finally, if you want more of the show, you can find our podcasts with all of our great episodes and your favorite guests. And make sure to check out the latest Voice of Reason infomercials and maybe some other special content. And it's all because of you being part of the Hoosier-holic family. Let's continue to fight for conservative common sense principles together by going to HooserReason.com. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
What fuels the freedom to dream bigger? How did two guys in a cramped California garage reimagine the phone and put the power of the universe at our fingertips? At Americans for Prosperity, we believe greatness can happen anywhere. We just need freedom and the opportunity to make it real. But today, with a rigid system stifling progress, limiting creativity, and holding us back. That's why at AFP, we offer solutions that tackle the most critical challenges facing our country, so there's nothing standing in the way of America's next breakthrough. Because what we build today doesn't just shape the future, it defines it. How will you be defined? Take your first step today with Americans for Prosperity.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever. Every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Switch today and get 1 month of service absolutely free by going to patriotmobile.com/reason.
When reason meets radio. This is the voice of reason with Andy Hooser.
I don't have the number in front of me. As
Were you governor
I
in
don't.
2024?
I was, but I'm not the
Okay,
head
so
of
your
HHS.
excuse before that you didn't know what 2017 autism numbers were because you were not governor, and today you can't answer the numbers about 2024 as governor, and you still said you prepared for this hearing today. It's unbelievable.
I love that. Nancy Mace, Congresswoman, going after Governor Tim Walz. And again, if you're governor, you should probably know these numbers. He didn't, by the way, know as well. She asked him how many children are in the state of Minnesota, which he had no idea about. Again, as governor, you would think you would kind of have that information, especially going into a hearing when you talk about fraud on social programs, and one of them being in the Medicaid program or the Medicare program or the Social Security program or the autism program on how much you're actually paying out, and going from $1 million to $343 million on these programs. And people are just like, meh, whatever, totally cool. Very strange, man. The crazy world we live in. Look, I mean, I'm glad we're getting down to it. We need to get rid of the fraud, but how in the world did we allow that to happen in the first place? That makes a whole lot more sense now when we increased our federal budget $2 trillion with a T since the pandemic, and it hasn't gone away since because it's all going to absolute fraud and ridiculousness. I want to tell you about my friends over at Lean. Everybody's talking about weight loss injections because the results are really dramatic, and they work by, well, lowering blood sugar and reducing appetite. But what if you're looking to lose weight but not be interested in the painful weekly injections or some of the intense side effects? That's why doctors created the weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are really remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it to energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're just not as hungry. But Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. Doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for the frustrated dieter that wants to lose 10 pounds or more, and we can get you started on that journey right now. Go to takelean.com, takelean.com, take LEAN.com, and enter the promo code REASON, REASON. Get 20% off on your order and free rush shipping, and add Lean to your healthy diet and your exercise plan. Do it right now and do this journey with me right here for the Voice of Reason. All right, so we had elections last night. I want to get to that here real quickly as well, as interesting numbers across the board, across the state of Kansas, or I'm sorry, the state of Texas specifically, where a lot of these focus and attention was on. One of those being in the Senate primaries, and a Democrat, which, did you hear? Sorry, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, you're gone. Can we give her the proper farewell? You know, I think she lost it. She doesn't have her district anymore after the redistricting. She lost the Senate primary. I think she's about on the way out, so we can give her the proper farewell salute on this program. Bye, 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 and say farewell to Jasmine Crockett, which, by the way, she was angry last night, saying that it was fraudulent. I'm sorry. After Donald Trump, how dare you claim that the elections are rigged? How dare you claim fraud in an election? How dare you do that? Even before they got the numbers last night, she said it was fraudulent because they weren't allowed to keep the polls open until 9 o'clock instead of the traditional 7 o'clock at night, which is normal across the nation, which she said in her speech last night.
Our Democratic Party chair, Cardall Coleman, he beat me to the punch, as myself and Colin Allred. We're about to file a lawsuit to keep the voting polls open. We were able to keep the polls open, but I can tell you now that people have been disenfranchised.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we knew that there were problems is because we were receiving the phone calls and the emails. The polls were supposed to stay open until 9, according to a court order. The Supreme Court, just a few minutes ago, just said, shut it down. Once there was a court order saying you had until 9, I'm sure that there were people that joined the line after 7. They now are telling them that you have to separate the votes out.
All right, so wild. You got to stay open until. Why don't we stay open until midnight? Why don't we stay open until 2 o'clock? That way we can just make sure that we force everybody to go there that we want to go there and vote. I really wish she would have gotten the nomination. Could you imagine that domination that happens in the general election in November with Jasmine Crockett as a Senate candidate?
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Switch today and get 1 month of service absolutely free by going to patriotmobile.com/reason.
Truth, reason, and common sense. This is the voice of reason with Andy Hooser.
47 years of tolerating and enabling the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism are over. Iran's murderous terrorist leaders are paying for their crimes against America, and they are paying in blood. Since 1979, the terrorist Iranian regime has actively and intentionally facilitated the killings of Americans. They chant death to America and fund other radical terrorists who attack our country and are seeking to destroy Western civilization itself.
All right, so Caroline Leavitt during a press conference earlier today talking about Iran, the ongoing excursion there. What's that look like moving forward? And not just Iran, but just our global foreign policy, as you've heard or may have heard earlier yesterday.
What's trending today?
Let's go to tariffs here for just a moment. We'll get back to Iran. We'll get back to the election results here in just a little bit. But let's talk about the foreign policy. If you've heard, as of yesterday, Scott Bessent, Secretary for the Treasury Department, has said that we are now implementing, starting this week, the 15% global tariff for all imports coming in. And then by August is the goal, and the guideline of what they're looking at is when we'll go back to the individualized tariffs based on the new statutes that they will be allowed to use. But is this shaking up the economy? What's it doing long term? And what's the future of the Trump administration's plan on foreign policy, trade deals, tariffs, and more? That's where we go to with our next guest on the program.
Let's go to the Hoosier Media Hotline.
That's right. Really happy to have on the program with the New American. Good to have them back on, thenewamerican.com. The man himself, Steve Bonta. Steve, how are you, my friend?
Hey, doing all right, Andy.
Yeah, doing great.
Kind of in water and fire hose mode as far as world events are concerned.
Oh, it's never ending, right? Under the Trump admin, I've never had a dull moment in the past year and a half. So it's been definitely interesting. I know you guys are on the same front here. So now that we're seeing this change, we're seeing the 15% global tax, we're seeing the potential change in tariff policy with statute by August. We created almost a transition of the economy to rely more so on this trade policy. Now that we've had the Supreme Court shake this up, what is this going to do you think, moving forward?
Well, it's hard to say. It depends on how this gets litigated, and it's probably going to take a while for everything to be sorted out. But the fundamental issue was, the outcome of this ruling was not really a surprise for those of us that have studied, the history of tariffs and all this. The fact is that, as the Supreme Court correctly observed in its ruling, tariffs are not something under the Constitution that the president is authorized to levy any more than he's allowed to, say, levy income taxes or capital gains taxes or any other type. I mean, tariff is a type of tax, and in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the very first clause, in fact, of Article 1, Section 8, clearly assigns to Congress all authority over what I think is, duties, taxes, levies, excises. They don't use the word tariff per se, but tariff is basically a duty, and so. That's something that Constitutionalism 101 teaches, that the purse strings belong to Congress, and there's a reason for that. What's happened has been the last time Congress passed a tariff bill of its own account, it's effectively setting by legislation, by congressional legislation, tariff rates, was the 1930 Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. And after that, since that time, there have been no others. And the political reasons for that is that the Smoot-Hawley was unfairly demonized as being the reason for the Great Depression, in spite of the fact that it occurred after the market crash of 1929. If you read literature on the Great Depression, particularly Keynesian economists love to point to Smoot-Hawley as being the primary culprit. And so what happened, one of the things that the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act included was, in effect, a delegation of authority on tariffs, a partial delegation, to the president. Now, that specific authority has not yet been invoked, but it's one of the things that the Trump administration is considering using as a fallback with respect to the current crisis. But the idea was, since tariffs were something that, for reasons we don't have time to go into, but for many decades, by what we would now call the radical left, back then was called the progressive movement, the progressives wanted to get rid of tariffs, as did the Marxists, the communists. This was one of the great bugbears of the international left in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And so, and once they got their, the income tax in place in the United States, and, a mechanism for printing money, to cover debt as well, the Federal Reserve System, all that, the idea was that we really don't need tariffs anymore. We're going to move into a more modern, progressive type of government, and that tariffs are kind of an outmoded relic of the past, like, say, letters of marque and reprisal or something. It's in the Constitution, but it should be treated as an ornamentation. And so from that day to this, tariffs have been essentially ornamental, very inconsequential, and less so with the passage of time. The creation of the World Trade Organization back in the 1990s essentially claimed that member states did not have ultimate authority over tariffs anymore, that was something that had to be adjudicated by an international authority, and so forth and so on. So tariffs were few, they were small, they were mostly issued by the president as sort of an afterthought. This is not true of most other countries, but it certainly has been true of the United States until Trump comes along and decides and says in effect, well, we need to bring back tariffs because obviously before there was an income tax and all the rest of the system that we have now that taxes America up to the eyeball and has driven the country into this monumental amount of debt, we funded a federal government very well, thank you very much, relying primarily on tariffs. And in that, he is correct, okay? And so what Trump has been trying to do, in my view, is very right-headed in the sense of saying we need to get back to a tariff-based system of federal revenue and as soon as possible jettison the income tax. He's made statements to this effect. Whether he's sincere is another issue, but he has said we should get rid of the graduated income tax and we should replace it with a tariff-based system.
Sure.
The problem is politically, there's no way in a hot place that you're going to get Congress to do that. And so Trump has kind of been using this really questionably constitutional bully pulpit method to try to get people to see that tariffs are probably of all forms of taxation, at least federal taxation, the least intrusive and the least obnoxious. Yes, they do reconfigure international trade. They do change incentives, but so do all other forms of taxation and, of course, government regulation. Sure. And tariffs, particularly for a country like the United States that has ultimately no need to import any crucial raw materials or products from other countries, can basically say, well, we're going to put tariffs on all imports, and that's going to create a market where most imports are basically luxury items. So you can buy an American-made car, or you can buy a luxury German-made car, this type of thing. Right. Back in the founding era, you could buy American-made furniture, or if you were wealthy, you could buy British-made Heppelwhite and pay the extra tariff, but if you were wealthy enough to afford it, it was worthwhile. So that, as I see, is kind of the summary of what's going on. How this is going to shake out in the courts, I mean, they have, the 1974 Trade Act and the aforementioned 1930 Trade Act, Smoot-Hawley, as their new basis, and they're going to try to roll out new tariffs on the part of that. But I suspect that once they get litigated in the Supreme Court, as they will, no doubt, probably the outcome will be similar, and we're going to arrive back to the Constitution at the conclusion that, unfortunately, no matter how you shake it, the Constitution doesn't authorize the president to levy any type of tax, including tariffs.
There's a lot to unpack there for sure. Let's go back. First off, I was not aware that the progressive liberal movement back in the day wanted to get rid of tariffs altogether and fought against them just because they thought they had enough coming in from income and they just wanted to do it more direct, just take it directly out of the paychecks of the workers. And of course, the union movement and the revolution on the industrial revolution, all that garbage, that they wanted to get rid of tariffs altogether. That's kind of interesting because, I mean, again, Donald Trump, whether, like you said, whether he can actually accomplish this or not, could we see enough revenue coming in potentially, theoretically, from tariffs to cut back on federal income tax, do you think?
Well, there's two things that have to happen, in my view, to return some semblance of constitutional federal government. One is to return to a more or less constitutionally favored method of funding, which of necessity excludes inflation, printing money to cover debt,
right.
Deficit spending, enabled by the Federal Reserve System, and number two, the heavy graduated income tax and other taxes like the corporate gain, capital gains tax, and so forth, all of which may be constitutional now under the amended Constitution, but were certainly not what the founders had in mind. But that's only half of the equation. The other half is that you have to dramatically shrink the size of the federal government, and you have to be willing to do it. You have to be willing to say, you know what, the federal government shouldn't try to be the savior of the world, which we're kind of doing right now with Iran, much as I hate to say this, and this is a different topic. But under the old system, we wouldn't have been able to afford the kind of world-engirding military that now allows us to go out and pulverize recalcitrant regimes that massacre their own people and this kind of thing. I mean, we would have to let go of that. And I don't know if if frankly, if politically, if Americans would be willing to do that. But a large consequence of the newer, modern, post-tariff-based system of revenues is that our government and other governments too, by the way, be it recalled, which also use inflation and heavy, direct taxes to fund their various conceits. It's no coincidence that era has coincided with the era of great wars, such as the one we're in right now. This is an enormously costly venture, and a lot of it's going to be paid for in the end by printing more money and running up to debt. You can't do that with tariffs, and the same goes through with with the big domestic welfare programs and everything else, at least at the federal level. Right. So that's something that at some point we're going to have to come to reckoning with as a country. Do we want to continue funding the federal behemoth, or do we want to go back to something like what we had, say, in the year 1900, approximately?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we have a long ways to go there. I would love to see that. And again, if we could get rid of 50, 60, 70% of the federal government, like you said, with some of the social program spending and even the military spending to some degree, and cut back on some stuff and downsize, and like you said, not rely on the federal government to take care of us and be the great savior, the Gandalf riding down the hill trying to save the day every day, then we could get back to that. But is there an appetite for that in D.C.? Probably not right now. So, Steve, hang on the line. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the future of this as well and what it could look like, because you're right. Donald Trump's walking kind of the quasi-line between the two. We want more American investment. We want more American ingenuity, American manufacturing. We want to bring stuff back to the United States, which is awesome. When we do, then how reliable or needed is the tariffs or the trade deals or the trade deficits that we have moving forward? We'll get to some of that and more. Go check them out, thenewamerican.com. You can see all their great information. We'll continue that with Steve right around the corner. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Big government is broken. Every year, politicians fail to pass a budget as the deficit continues to grow. Every month, unelected bureaucrats pile on rules no one voted for, strangling our economy. And every day, D.C.'s broken system gets in the way of the American dream. Washington isn't working, and the people pay the price. At Americans for Prosperity, we believe it's time to fix the system. Now, join the movement to make government work.
Hey, did you know that you can have multiple different networks on one single smartphone? Well, with Patriot Mobile, you can. It's time for you to sign up for the Patriot Mobile primary phone plan with plans as low as $15 a month, where you can have 2 numbers and 2 networks on one single phone. And right now, if you sign up using the promo code REASON, you can get an entire month absolutely free. It's the Patriot Mobile One plan. 1 phone, 2 numbers, and 2 networks. And it's all at patriotmobile.com/reason. Again, patriotmobile.com, and use the promo code REASON. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. You know, when I get off the air every day, the battle for me against limited government, censorship, and even unfactual content is far from over. That's why now I'm so happy to say that the Hooser Media Network is giving you more opportunity to catch the Voice of Reason along with other great shows and podcasts. It's been a long time in the works, and now you can finally enjoy more great content, services, and topical shows. We're the safe space for alternative talk, information, and ideas that the mainstream media absolutely hates. From holistic and alternative medicine, discussions on religion and spirituality, hear entertainment shows, and of course yours truly with the Voice of Reason. Plus, we offer numerous media services, including helping you set up your own podcast. Become your own Voice of Reason and bring your expertise to any fun issue or topic. For information on all of our shows, links to podcasts, each show website or social media link, or to find out about everything we do to challenge the mainstream establishment, visit our website at HooserMedia.com. Again, that's HooserMedia.com, the future of media.
What fuels the freedom to dream bigger? Our country's greatest breakthroughs were born from bold ideas and the ability to take one small step forward. At Americans for Prosperity, freedom and opportunity find their defenders. Because our country's next giant leap is just around the corner. Are you ready to step up?
Hey, the live show may be almost over today, but it doesn't have to be for you. As always, enjoy the Voice of Reason with our daily podcast by finding the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser on any of your favorite podcasting sites. Just find us, subscribe, have it automatically downloaded, and listen at your convenience whenever you want to bring some more reason into your day. And a lot of people are doing it. Also, you can always find the video of the show, along with articles, additional commentary, and maybe a few sarcastic remarks by following us on our social media. Stay up to date with everything going on with the show, including upcoming guests, breaking news stories, interesting articles, and maybe some memes. Help us in the ongoing battle with censorship and shadow banning from social media by following us on the social media at Hooser Reason on all of our social media sites. For all these social media links, podcast links, contact information, or just general information of the show, go to our website at HooserReason.com. There you can listen live every day, read our latest monthly blog, find our radio affiliate list, or even listen to our latest infomercials and special content. Plus, you can always reach out to the program by sending me a message on social media, emailing us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com, or sending an email through our website at HooserReason.com. Whether it's content on the show, whether it's a guest that you've liked or disliked, or whether you want to disagree with me, and disagreement's always appreciated. While you're there, make sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter. Each month you'll get the latest update on the show, updates from the Hooser Media Network, and our latest blog discussing topical issues of the day. Finally, if you want to help support the show, become a member of our Patreon site and help us fight for the cause of truth, reason, and common sense every day, and get more of the same by becoming the ultimate Hoosierholic. Get additional interviews that sometimes we don't always get to air on the radio. Hear our special segments or even our infomercials before anyone else, and have a chance to chat with other great Hoosierholics from all over. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, you're not only helping the fight for conservative values, you're helping us get more content and information out through the Hooser Media Network. Find out more information online at HooserReason.com. Lastly, follow and support all of our partners with the show. The Voice of Reason has been growing more and more every year, and it's because of so many great partners helping us get the message out to you. From show partners to local radio affiliates in your area to streaming sites, podcasting sites, and more, we have so many supporters and listeners now than ever before, and we want to thank you. It's time to bring back common sense, and we do it right here every day with the Voice of Reason.
America's safe space for common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
We're doing very well on the war front, to put it mildly, I would say. Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15. And we're going to continue to do well. We have the greatest military in the world by far.
Yeah, President Donald Trump speaking earlier today in a panel discussion and a roundtable and saying that we're on the scale of 15. 1 out of 10, we're at a 15 on how well the war is going. So, look, I mean, we're very precise. The question is, I think many people are lingering on how long this is going to last. We kind of have PTSD from a 20-year-plus war that happened in the early 2000s. We don't want to see that again. But, again, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistically encouraged that we have someone like Pete Hegseth that's going to say, well, we're not going to do that. I was there. We're not going to allow ourselves to have a long-term conflict. And Donald Trump himself that has said that having long-term wars like that is stupid, and I will not be a president of long-term wars. And a guy who's created 10 different peace agreements around the world, I would say that I would give a little bit more kudos to than usual. Right now, we're hanging out with Steve Bonte. He's with The New American, thenewamerican.com. Go see all the great information there as we talk about the tariffs, foreign policy, and trying to get the government back on track. Steve, as you mentioned, we're sitting in this quasi line that Donald Trump's trying to play, which is let's bring back manufacturing, bring investment back into the United States, which he has. He says, according to him, multiple trillions of dollars that are being reinvested in the nation to bring back producing pharmaceuticals, producing vehicles again, producing manufacturing, not outsourcing or shipping this stuff overseas and then trying to bring it back in. And then at the same time, with countries that want to do deals with us and want to trade with the United States, that we're not going to have this massive trade deficit. Playing both sides of this, at the end of the day, if he gets, let's just say in a perfect world, if he gets all of this that he wants to, what would that look like for an economy? Would we be in a better shape than what we are right now?
I think so. But, a question that not too many people have asked is how sustainable is this, politically speaking? Because, a lot of this is going to be reversed the moment we get our next Democratic president or Democrat-controlled Congress. This is obviously something we're going to have to. We'll see what happens this year, and then of course in 2028. And for this to work, you can't. Yes, a lot of companies are committing to reshore operations and so forth, but they also know, they're not stupid. The people that operate these international corporations, they also know if this thing could change tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow, but could change in a few months.
By the end of the year, for sure.
Certainly a couple of years. Well, I mean, we saw this after Trump's first 4 years in office. You know, he was hustled out of power in 2020, and everything that he accomplished in the preceding 4 years was speedily undone by President Biden and a complacent Democrat-controlled Congress.
Yeah.
So, you know, for this to become truly epoch-defining, you know, to really lead to a new way of doing things, or perhaps better put, towards something that more closely resembles the old way of doing things, the America First way of doing things on matters like trade and tariffs and so forth, it's going to require a sustained effort. And yeah, if it becomes clear after a couple more electoral cycles that the MAGA movement is not going away, that tariffs are here to stay, that they've become once again a part of the American political consciousness and so forth, that the old globalists, the coalition of globalists and radical left Democrats is truly in full retreat, then and only then, I think, will you see these companies fully embrace it. Okay, we will go back and start building factories around the Great Lakes again and employing Americans who aren't afraid to get dirt under their fingernails and this kind of thing. Right now, I think we're kind of in this interesting transition period where a lot of people are saying, I mean, you know, Bill Maher did his comedic thing recently where he said, you know, young Americans today basically are wusses. They're not going to work in factories and this sort of thing. They're too busy doing live streams and so forth. And, you know, but a lot of it's a consequence of the culture that has changed as we have changed, you know, reconfigured the economy in all sorts of ways. And it's created this expectation that, well, you know, the people that do, you know, the dirty jobs, the hard work, the factories, the building, those ought to be people who live in, you know, in third world countries, not us, not anymore. And obviously what Trump is saying is no, you know, and I think the founders would have concurred, no, we should be doing that here. You know, it's good for the national character.
Right.
But whether it'll take will depend a lot on whether Americans are truly committed enough to this agenda in large enough numbers to ensure that what Trump has done is permanent. The last time we had a president like Trump was Andrew Jackson, and he was only in office 2 terms, but the force of his personality was such that many of the things that he, you know, convinced Americans to do became more or less, you know, secular, permanent, you know, generational things. And I think Trump may be able to do the same thing, but we'll see.
It's a lot of uncertainty, you're right, and it is wild to think that we've seen such a generational change, you're right, because I remember when I first got involved in politics myself as a kid, it was controversial to be offshoring and sending all this work across the seas, and people are like, no, we want these American jobs. Now, the next generation, they're like, nah, we don't want to do that crap. What are we talking about? Steve, we're out of time, my friend, thenewamerican.com. I could talk to you forever. Got to get you back on the show again real soon, brother.
Thanks. Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure. Back at it again tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you on the radio. Bye. As you know, I'm always looking for a good snack, but it's hard to find good quality snacks without all the unhealthy additives. But now that problem is over. It's time to enjoy J&S Smoked Snacks. Real cuts of beef, real wood smoke, and real flavor that's crafted in small batches to keep every bag fresh. I promise you'll be addicted. And with numerous different